Hello people, it's your FPL plug and we are back for another season of FPL. In today's video I've got a very special guest for you and we're going to be going over our Game Week 1 teams and our potential chip strategies for the start of the season. So I hope you find at least something in this video very interesting and we'll get my thoughts and another FPL content creators' thoughts on the start of this FPL season with all the new changes. So, as you can see above me here, we have got the rank history. So, 2 years ago, 2023 to 24, we got 23,000 in the world. And as you can see, we ended up last season on 65,000 in the world. And I think if you were watching at the start of the season, we had a pretty horrible start. So to get 65,000 in the world at the end of the season, we played really well with our chip strategy. So hopefully we can have a better start this season and continue it on to the chip strategy at the end of the season and have an even better year than last year. But getting straight into my team. So in this section of the video, I will be showing you my Game Week 1 team that I currently have. I'm recording this a little bit ahead of the deadline, so it may change, but make sure to follow me on TikTok, FPL Plug, to see my absolute final draft come the 15th of August. But let's get into the team. So in goal, I've currently got Verbruggen and Dubravka. Dubravka's just come into my team after Burnley signed him, and most likely we think he's going to be the #1 goalkeeper for Burnley. Newcastle wouldn't sell Dubravka if he wasn't going to be the #1 starting goalkeeper. So he's in at 4.0 million. I think he's basically essential in most people's teams. And then Verbruggen, he hasn't actually left one of my drafts yet. He was, as you may remember, a really big part of my team last season. I think this year goalkeepers aren't going to be an amazing part of our team with the defensive contribution addition. I think defenders and midfielders are going to be, again, a massive part of our year this year. So Verbruggen for Brighton, decent fixtures. Burnley also have okay fixtures. Obviously, they're not going to be keeping clean sheet week in, week out. But I think Verbruggen is a good pick. And then if we move over to the defence, I can do this in real time. I've gone for, first up, Senesi. I think he's a really underappreciated defender this year because he was injured for most of last year, and Huijsen obviously then came in and did exceptionally well in that Bournemouth team. But I think Senesi, with the stats previous to when he got injured, he's going to be an absolute beast for the defensive contribution points. So in that Bournemouth team, I think he's probably the best, cheapest way in at 4.5 million. I'm more than happy to have him. And speaking of another cheap beast, we've got Estave. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name. But again, a Burnley defender. Maybe I'm a little bit too heavy on that Burnley defence. I think they will be the best defence of the three coming up. But obviously, the Premier League is completely different to the Championship. But again, he'll be good for the defensive contribution points. And as I'll get on to with Josh later on in the video, I think the cheaper players that you're not going to be playing week in, week out is almost essential to have someone that's going to be good for defensive contribution points. Just because if you do need to bring them in, say one of your defenders gets injured and you need to bring them in, then you know they're getting a baseline of around 4 points every single game, obviously unless they let in loads and loads of goals and they have a really bad fixture. But I think having Senesi and Estave are really going to give me a good foundation that is going to mean that I'm flexible for the rest of the season. However, this is where we come into the structure of the team. So for my structure, I currently have Marc Cucurella in my team. Now, Colwell has just got an ACL injury, so this may change. However, Cucurella was basically playing as a left winger last season, so if he keeps up the attacking threat, then I'm not too bothered that he's not great for defensive contributions, because in that Chelsea team, he could get loads and loads of attacking contributions if Chelsea are as good this season as we think they're going to be. However, come the start of the season, this could be someone like Virgil van Dijk if his injury isn't too bad, and maybe Gvardiol. I know he's not on the team sheet for the game. You might have some more information on him once I've posted this video, but someone in that £6 million price bracket just to keep the structure there. And then I've gone for Nico Williams. He's basically not left any of my drafts either. He was amazing for defensive contribution points. I think he last season he would have got defensive contribution points over 50% of his games. And obviously he's an attacking fullback. So I think Nico Williams, if you don't have him in your team already, at least one to think about. At just 5 million, not bad whatsoever. And then another great value for money player, Van der Ven. In that Spurs team, yes, Spurs haven't looked brilliant in pre-season, but I think Van der Ven, as long as he can keep not injured, then in the Thomas Frank team, I think he will be a great asset for us. Then moving into the midfield, again another possible injury scare. I know in the game in pre-season he got taken off within 3 minutes for I think it was an ankle injury. However, I believe someone reported that Rodgers, it doesn't look as serious as first thought. So hopefully, fingers crossed, come the deadline, we can know that Rodgers will be fit and will be available for the start of the season. And if so, I will have him in. If not, I could maybe take him out for someone like Semenyo. But as we get further on into the team, I'll show you why I probably won't have Semenyo in my team. Then another really, really cheap beast for this season. Again, focused around defensive contribution points. I think for me this season, from what I can tell at the start of the season, I'm going to either have Baleba or I'll have Anderson from Nottingham Forest. I think for me, it's just worth saving that 0.5 million to bring in Baleba, unless he gets a move to somewhere like Man United where he might not get the minutes. But if he stays at Brighton and he's locked in that team, then I think I will be going for Baleba. And then Cole Palmer, he's not left a single one of my drafts this year. At least at the start of the season where they have really, really good fixtures. I'm not sure if I can... Yeah, I can show you the fixtures here. So if we look here, they've got Crystal Palace at home, West Ham away, Fulham at home, Brentford away, United away and Brighton at home. That is a really good spread of fixtures for the first 6. So I'm almost definitely going to have Palmer in my team at the start of the season. Whether that be, as we'll mention later, with a Salah draft or a Haaland draft, I think either Salah or Haaland will be paired with Palmer. And then the absolute cheap beast of the season, in my opinion, Ndiaye. Yes, Everton don't always get penalties. However, this man being a penalty taker in the midfield at just 6.5 million is an absolute steal. I think at points in the season he will play up front. However, obviously they have just bought Barry and they've got Beto. So he will be more of a midfielder this season. But I still think he's going to get that attacking threat in that Everton team and he's on penalties. So it's an absolute no-brainer for me. And then we're rounding the midfield off with Mohamed Salah. My current draft does have Mohamed Salah and not Erling Haaland, and I'll show you why in a minute, but I just think Salah is always going to be unbeatable in that Liverpool team. As we'll mention later on, I think the second best player in the Liverpool team would be Gakpo, in my opinion, now being classified as a midfielder and without Diaz. He's basically locked in the team. So I think if you're not going for Salah, go for Gakpo, but I do think Salah is still just about worth the 14.5 million price tag. Obviously, that is very, very expensive. And when he goes off to AFCON, we will be able to take Salah out of our team. So I just want him for the first couple of weeks to capitalise on those points. And then moving on into the forward line. This is why I'm not too afraid of going without Erling Haaland. For one, Erling Haaland has a much lower percentage ownership than someone like Salah. So it's not going to hurt you as much if Haaland does well than if Salah did well. And I think Ollie Watkins can come close to matching Erling Haaland, at least at the start of the season. Aston Villa have really, really good fixtures. So let's have a look at their fixtures. So if we look here, they've got Newcastle at home, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Everton, Sunderland, Fulham, Burnley and Spurs. I would start Watkins and Rodgers in all of those fixtures. So I think personally Watkins is nailed on in my team, and it also helps that if someone like Gyökeres does really, really well at the start of the season, Arsenal don't have the best fixtures at the start of the season. So I'm happy going without him for now and then moving on from Watkins to Gyökeres if he is doing really, really well. Then moving on to the second player in that forward line, Evan Nilsson. I think he's majorly being underrated this year. And we will have a look at the end of this section as well at the AI rating of my team, because I think Evan Nilsson's really, really getting slept on penalties in that Bournemouth side. This is why I probably won't go for Semenyo, because I don't want to triple up on Bournemouth, I don't think. But Evan Nilsson, yeah, really under the radar, and I think will be a great pick this year. And then Chris Wood. We've got Brentford at home at the start of the season. Let's have a quick look at their fixtures. Yeah, they've got Brentford, Crystal Palace, West Ham, then Arsenal hard again, but then Burnley and Sunderland in 5 and 6. So I think Chris Wood on penalties for Nottingham Forest. Most likely, I don't think Morgan Gibbs-White will get given the penalties back. And Wood had a brilliant start to the season last season, didn't he? So if he continues that form, then I think he's going to be an absolute no-brainer in our teams. Perfect. And then moving on to the FPL Hub, or Fantasy Football Hub, game week rating. So if we have a look at this team, I have added in Virgil. Let's just make it the same team as I showed you there. So we'll get rid of these guys. We'll add in Belabor. How do you spell Belabor? Am I doing this wrong? Oh, it's Balabor. And if you want to do this as well, feel free to click the link in my bio, go straight to Fantasy Football Hub, and you'll be able to import your team. Yes, we do have here, as you can see, the AI rating basically. So the team rating gets a 94% and the game week rating also gets a 94%. So I do think this is a really, really solid setup for the start of the season. But let me know, have a look at this team, input your teams into Fantasy Football Hub. Let me know down in the comments what you think of my team and also what your team rates on the AI sort of rating scale. And a quick mention to the brief chip strategy that I will mostly have or probably have coming into the season. I won't be on Bench Boost 1 just because I want more information and then I can Bench Boost a little bit further down the line. And if players like Rodgers, Senesi, Estave, Dubravka and Diaye are doing really, really well, then I can just Bench Boost this team in a good week to Bench Boost. I don't think Bench Boosting with Senesi and Evan Nilsson against Liverpool is a brilliant idea, so I won't be doing it this week. But yeah, just get a little bit more information and then I will Bench Boost this team and look to save my wild card as long as possible, and then I can wild card sort of maybe a little bit before the AFCON substitutions, get a brilliant team and then save up those transfers for the 5 transfers that we get for the AFCON substitutions, and then maybe look to bench boost my team after that and just keep my team going until later on in the season when we can wildcard again, bench boost, triple captain in all the double game weeks, hopefully, that we do get. So let me know down in the comments what you think of the chip strategy and what your chip strategy will be for this season. Right, today, obviously, as I have mentioned, we have a special guest joining us from the FPL graduates. We have Josh. Josh, do you want to do a little intro to yourself?
Yeah, so as Tom mentions, half of the FPL graduates going into this season off the back of I think it was top 50-ish K last season. The 2 seasons before it were a little bit better, top 4K and then a top 2K. So yeah, been a lucky little run, I'd say, the last few years. So hopefully it can continue going into this season.
Yeah, no, and you're definitely a good little manager in our community league. I think most of you watching this video will know about the Creator League. Sorry, I know you won it. Not last season, but the season before, and you were definitely competitive this year. But Jimmy G just picked us to the post this year, so hopefully another good year for us both.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Jimmy G deserved it. He was smashing it all last season, so it'd been rude if we caught up with him.
He did, but he's got no Buemo on penalties now, though, so I think we'll be all right. But no, perfect. Okay, well, the reason that we've got you on today, Josh, is to go through your current Game Week 1 team. We are recording this a little bit before Game Week 1, so obviously things can change, but just want to get your thoughts on your team to start with, if you want to just go through it line by line.
Yeah, so I'll start with the strategy first, just because it sort of dictates the team. So at the minute, I'm looking at a Game Week 1 bench boost. I'd say I'm probably like 95% sure that I'll do that, just because throughout even previous seasons, I just don't like the bench boost chip. So trying to get it out of the way as early as possible, I think will be good. It also is a plan to wildcard fairly early, so into Game Week 4. So that'll be after the first international break, after Game Week 3. Should give me a small sample size, but enough to see how DEFCON impacts the games and stuff like that. A lot of the algorithms are obviously suggesting 4-5-1s, so that's heavily favouring DEFCON. I don't know if it'll be as sort of bad as that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and obviously, like I say, get the bench boost out of the way game week 1, and obviously, yeah, it'll be an interesting one going forwards. What's your thoughts on that strategy?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely different this season, right? Because we get obviously the double chips, so we have to use our chips early anyway. And you basically, well, I would say the best time to use the bench boost is either game week 1, like you're doing, or after your first wild card, or after your AFCON transfers. So I think we've got 3 opportunities in the first half of the year. I personally am a very flexible first manager, so I won't be going for I say I won't be going for it. I think I'm probably 60 to 70% sure that I won't be doing the game week 1 bench boost unless something dramatic changes in my thought process. But I have to say, if I was going to be on a bench boost 1 strategy, I think I would do exactly what you're doing with your team. So if you could talk us through your team and why that fits into a bench boost 1 strategy, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I'll start off from the back. So the keepers I've got are Sanchez and Dubravka. Sanchez I'm not so keen on. We're recording this the day that Colwill has been injured for the season. He's done his ACL. So yeah, for me, I think he's quite integral to that defence. So I was already not too keen on that Palace fixture game week 1 as it is. I think Palace are sort of going under the radar a little bit with how good they are going forwards against pretty much any team. So don't think that's a lock clean sheet wise. It's just trying to find. I'm finding it quite hard this year to find a goalkeeper that I can sit on and be fairly happy. I was there with Sanchez, but that Colwill news has sort of knocked me for 6. So that's sort of up in the airs at the moment. Obviously, Dubravka's the other goalkeeper, 4 mil. Almost everyone will probably have him game week 1. I'm tempted to keep him and not split the funds 4-5-4-5 just because the 4-5 keepers aren't amazing. So yeah, I might just test it with Dubravka away at Tottenham. Burnley defensive record last year was good. I know their underlying data wasn't as good as their clean sheets and stuff, but Spurs in pre-season haven't looked too good going forwards. Obviously Dom Solanke at the time of recording yet to play any pre-season minutes. Obviously Maddison is out for the season. It just doesn't seem to be clicking too well, so I might just chance it. At the end of the day, it's a 4 mil keeper on the bench, so he allows me to spread the cash elsewhere. So yeah, that's the thoughts on the keeper. Do you have a favoured keeper at the moment? It might help me out a little bit.
Yeah, well, to be honest, there's one keeper that hasn't left my drafts yet, and that is Verbruggen. I had him basically most of last season, and he served me absolutely amazingly. He just ticked along with his save points, and Brighton weren't that bad defensively either, so they got a few clean sheets. So I think, well, at the moment I'm on Verbruggen and Dubravka, which is like basically no money in the goalkeepers. But I just don't. Yeah, I think like you, I don't see the upside in keepers this year. In going for like a more expensive one, like an Alisson or something like that, when you can just have either the 2 4.5s or just Dubravka, like you say, chance that against Spurs. And also, I think personally, Burnley won't be too bad defensively. Obviously, they'll be nowhere near the 16 goals that they let in last season. But I think it's just worth it, right? 4 million for a goalkeeper that you're probably barely going to use if you've got someone like Verbruggen or Kelleher, then yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I think also with DEFCON coming in, it sort of makes keepers less valuable. Like before, obviously they could score those extra points in terms of saves, but now when you've got defenders being able to get attack and returns, obviously keepers can get attack and returns, but it's highly unlikely. And then also those DEFCON points, it's sort of the value there when you pay 5 mil for Sells, but then also get Nico Williams, who's getting DEFCON in 60% of his games plus some attack and threat. It's just it's one of those ones. It's where what do you want to pay for? So yeah, I have had Verbruggen. It's interesting you mentioned him. He's probably my favourite 4.5. I did have Areola as well, but obviously Hermansen's coming in there, who's going to start game week 1. I'll probably just avoid that. So yeah, maybe Verbruggen's my next goalkeeper going into this team.
Yeah, no, I like it. And you mentioned the DEFCON stuff. I think that's a good thing to have a quick talk about. What are your thoughts around it? Do you think it's maybe a little bit overrated, or do you think it's going to be basically essential to have players that are getting those DEFCON points?
I think if you play it right, it's going to be super essential. I think it's going to definitely benefit the managers that have more patience, like with players who, some might not pick up DEFCON for maybe 3 games in a row, but if you keep them for a 10 game period, they're going to get like 7 out of 10, that type of thing. So yeah, for me, I think that's what's going to be good about it. It's going to definitely reward those guys who aren't going to be chopping and changing all the time, which is good. For me, I have tried to focus my team around it. Like usually, because attack and returns, especially last season under the bonus points for defenders, it just didn't do anything for them. Whereas in the seasons gone by, that used to get them like max free bonus every single time. So yeah, hopefully it sort of evens the playing field out. Because I do feel like defenders last year were it just was just harder for them to get points in terms of those bonuses and stuff like that. So yeah, I think in that regards, it should hopefully even the playing field out amongst the whole of all of the categories.
Yeah, 100%. I think I pretty much agree with all of that. Really, I think it's going to be basically essential for the sort of six. If you have a £6 million defender, I think they should be getting good DEFCON. And then if you have a really cheap defender, I think they also should be getting good DEFCON. Just because you'll always be playing someone like a Virgil van Dijk, so you want those extra points to just build up throughout the season. But then if you have someone like maybe a Starve, I know you have Diouf and Dorgu, who are both attacking fullbacks. But I think if you have someone like a Starve, I don't know how you say his name, from Burnley, then if you do need to play him for 1 week, at least you have a chance of getting those 2 points rather than having someone that might be getting like a really high score, but not a lot of the time. Like if a Starve's getting 2 points or 4 points overall pretty much every week, then I think that for me is better to have that coming on than someone like, let's say, Diouf, who after the Sunderland game might just get blank after blank after blank. So and then just 100%. Like a random 9-pointer, right, when he scores and assists someone. And then if you have him on your bench, then you don't really see the upside of that.
I definitely agree with that. I think that's what's going to be interesting. Like some managers will chase upside, like you say, with those like more attacking wing backs like a Diouf or Dorgu, and then some will, if you're playing the long game, for example, if you're not going to be wildcarding super early like me, going for an Esteve or a Joe Rodon or someone at 4 mil who probably will get 2 points every single week at a minimum, and then if they get a clean sheet, you're going to be absolutely laughing because they're definitely going to be in DEFCON. Chances are they're probably going to be in the bonus too. So yeah, you could that's why I definitely feel like the 4 mil defenders are being overlooked, because to be honest, you could start them most weeks, and they'd have to if they're getting DEFCON almost every single week, like we expect a Rodon or a Biol to do, then I think like you're just going to be able to sustain them. They could play in your team pretty much almost every week. So you're just going to get 2 points at the worst case. Yeah, exactly. So like they'd have to, even if they concede 4 and they still get DEFCON, they're still going to get 2 points. So it's like, do you know what I mean? It's an interesting concept. I think that's one of the areas that when I get to my wild card in Gameweek 4, I definitely will have at least one £4 million defender by then.
Yeah, and I've just seen in your defence there that you've got double Nottingham Forest. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, obviously DEFCON is sort of related to what we were just saying about how well these defenders are doing. Obviously Murillo, Milenkovic both at 5.5. I think that's a lot more than people expected pre-DEFCON announcement. But yeah, with the data that goes back, it just screams that they're fantastic options. Obviously in pre-season as well, they've been very solid defensively. Poor go forwards. I expect that to continue, to be honest. Like 1-0s here, 0-0s, that kind of vibe. They're just solid defensively. That's what Nuno teams are. So yeah, opening 3 for Forest looks decent from a clean sheet point of view. So yeah, gone with them both because I couldn't really decide which one to pick, to be honest. I like them both. Williams does like I said, does well. I think 60% of his games last season he got 4+ points, which was good. Murillo as well, yeah, DEFCON monster. Should be picking them up most weeks. I will say though, Milenkovic obviously carries that greater attacking threat, so I think it's more even than maybe people are picking. Like, if Milenkovic gets a bullet ahead every now and then it could, wipe out a couple of weeks worth of DEFCON points. So yeah, both of them looking good. Obviously Van der Ven I've got against Burnley at home. Obviously, not enough data last season, I'd say, to really suggest if he's going to be good at DEFCON or not. I think under Thomas Frank, they probably will concede more shots. That's just how it happens. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes with Van der Ven. Obviously, he's cheap as chips. So yeah, could go him. Could go Spence maybe. Obviously, with Udogie probably missing game week 1. And then, like you mentioned earlier, I've got Diouf and Dorgu on the bench. Two guys who obviously high attacking upside, especially for this game week 1. Dorgu in pre-season has really impressed me. I had him last season at points as well. I just think in that Amorim system, him and Ahmad, they get forward so much. He obviously got a goal and assist in pre-season. I think it was against Bournemouth, that one. Super just lively, I guess you could say. It looks like he's gonna get some sort of attack and return every time he goes forward, Dorgu. So yeah, happy to sort of chance that against Arsenal at home. I think United obviously recruited really well in the summer, so have Arsenal. It'll be a very interesting game. I'm going to it as well, so a little bit of United bias going on in there.
No, I like it. And I think the best thing that I've just seen about or just realised about your team is that I was like, why is he benching Diouf? Because they've got Sunderland away. And then I looked through your team and there was not a single player that I would want to play Diouf over. So I think that's always a good sign of a strong, well-rounded team, is when you want to play one of your bench players, but you actually can't.
Yeah, that's the bench boost in the hole. So fingers crossed he can do some of the magic like he was doing in that last game of the summer series, whipping in some crosses to Fulkrug. That'd be lovely.
Yeah, this is true. He's got to carry your bench boost, because Dorgu's getting nothing against Arsenal, and then Welbeck against Fulham. That's a good fixture actually. That should be good. But no, I like it. Okay, well, moving on to your midfield, I've also just spotted someone there that, at time of recording yesterday, looks to be quite injured. He played 3 minutes, came on at half-time, and then got subbed off straight away. What are you thinking about that, Morgan Rogers?
Yeah, it's obviously a bit of an interesting one to keep an eye on for sure before game week 1. I think it's more of a precaution thing. Like, if he felt a knock or whatever, then what's the point in risking him pre-season? So yeah, at the minute, we don't really have a definitive update, but it doesn't seem too serious, to be honest. If he is injured, it probably will put a spanner in the plans a little bit, just because 7 million is not an awkward price point, but like I like Semenyo, for example, at that price. Obviously, Liverpool game week 1's not ideal, but after that is a little bit better for the longer term. So I probably would drop him down, if I'm being honest, to 6.5 or something like that. Maybe a Kudus if I fancy that Spurs attack, but it sort of, I guess, contradicts that Dubravka pick. So it defo would require a little bit of thought if he is confirmed out for game week 1.
Yeah, no, I like it. And then, talk me through the rest of your midfield then.
Yeah, so obviously Cody Gakpo, you'll know probably a little bit better than me, but he's looked good in pre-season. As soon as I saw Diaz go into Bayern Munich, I've had him in there for a couple of weeks, to be honest, because I just thought, if there's no one else on that left side, then Gakpo should get minutes, at least for the first 3 game weeks. I'm not looking super long term, I'm looking pretty short term, to be honest. Isak, at the time recording as well, doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. Obviously, you guys face each other as well in game week 2, so I'd imagine that sort of plays into it a little bit, like with him going to Newcastle as an away player potentially. So yeah, I really like him as a pick. I think from an FPL asset point of view, he's got goals in him. I think Wirtz will have more assists, which obviously, goals get more points. It's a pretty simple concept. So, and obviously he is 7.5 million, which I think is a very good and reasonable price. And obviously now converted back to a midfielder, whereas last year he was a forward. So yeah, pretty happy with Gakpo. What's your thoughts? Do you think he'll be fairly nailed for those opening 3? Obviously I'm not expecting 90 minutes, but
yeah, I feel like obviously if you're not going for Salah, me personally, I think I would go for Gakpo next. I had Gakpo in my team when he was a forward, so him being a midfielder, I think he's even better. And he used to have the competition with Nunes and Diaz. I think with Liverpool as well, what's nice about that is you have the Community Shield game on Sunday.
Exactly, yeah.
So you can see sort of I expect it to be Gakpo, Ekitike and Salah, but obviously depending on any transfers that happen from us recording to the end to the start of the season, I personally think Gakpo's the second best pick from Liverpool, then someone like Florian Wirtz. But also Florian Wirtz is new, so you don't know how he's going to fit into the team and also how he's going to play out as an FPL asset. Because someone can be a brilliant football player but not be a brilliant FPL asset. So I think Gakpo is definitely the safer, better choice in my opinion.
Yeah, it will be interesting because I know obviously Wirtz can play on the left as well. I'm just hoping that he gets put into that sort of 10 role more so. Obviously, Gravenberch is missing game week 1 through suspension as well, so I feel like that would almost enforce it a little bit more. Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see anyway. Obviously, rest of midfield, Cole Palmer's in there. It's a difficult one. I'd actually happily go without him if I knew he was playing in the middle. If he plays off the right, then he's a superb FPL asset. Obviously, end of last season, he was playing through the middle. Fantastic player for Chelsea, and it's similar to what you mentioned with Wirtz. Like, he's a great player, but doesn't get those FPL returns when he's down the middle. So, yeah, for me, hopefully he plays off the right. Obviously, there's I think 2 pre-season friendlies this weekend at the time of recording for Chelsea. So, yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on his positioning there because I do feel like you could shop around a bit in that Chelsea attack if he is playing through the middle and get a lot better value for money than 10.5 mil. Iliman Ndiaye, 6.5 mil midfielder. He's been my sort of favourite pick at the minute. I've been watching Summer Series, so I guess that could be a little bit more biased because I've actually seen him playing. Penalties, he's had a nice goal against United as well. Took that really well. Grealish potentially joining could maybe limit minutes a little bit, but you know, I don't think Grealish had much of a pre-season with Everton, so I wouldn't expect him to come in straight away. So again, for those first 3 game weeks, I'd feel fairly confident in him playing all 3. And then Bruno Fernandes wraps up the midfield. 9 million, obviously a more premium than last year. I think that in the system that we're playing at the moment at United, with him in the middle, with hopefully Baleba, but probably Casemiro for game week 1. I think, DEFCON wise, he's going to be through the roof pretty much most weeks. And then you've also got the penalties from, really technically tricky players like Ahmad, Dorgu, Cunha, and Mbumo. All these guys could easily win penalties. So I'd expect United to, 1, get more penalties next year. And 2, obviously, Bruno Fernandes' open play goal threat is so consistent. It's 17, 18 attacking returns for the last 3 or 4 years every year. Plus the DEFCON, I think he'll be almost like a season keeper, basically. Similar to what we were saying at the start. If you keep these guys for a long period of time, they'll be averaging, a solid amount of points throughout the season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, to be honest, that midfield is as good as you're going to get without Salah. If you replace Gakpo with Salah, I think that's the best midfield you could possibly have in the game for the start of the season. So, really like it. And speaking of no Salah, obviously that means that you can get Haaland in your team. What was the thinking behind not going with Salah and going with Haaland and Palmer?
Yeah, it's not a case that I don't want Salah, because like you say, if I could replace Gakpo with Salah and there'd be no budget restraints, that would be wicked. But it was just more of a case of I find Liverpool's first 3 fixtures quite tough. Obviously, Bournemouth definitely the easier. They haven't looked good in Summer Series defensively, so I definitely feel like that's the most scary one. But then obviously Newcastle defensively very solid. I know he obviously scored a couple of goals last season away from home. He can score against anyone, let's be honest. But I'm just thinking from a defensive point of view, Arsenal and Newcastle were 2 better defences than Spurs and Brighton, who Haaland has in those weeks. Plus Haaland has Wolves away, who for me is probably on an even split with Bournemouth. So yeah, just sort of edging it towards Haaland a little bit. Obviously at the first, I think I saw a stat today on Twitter where the first 5 game weeks of the season for the last 3 seasons, Haaland scored 26 goals and got 2 assists. Salah's got like I think it's 8 goals and 10 assists or something like that. Probably a little bit off on the Salah numbers, but basically Haaland scores a load of goals in the first 5 game weeks, so I don't really want to miss out on that.
No, I do like that, and it is. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I'm 60 to 70% locked in on my strategy. I think the 30 to 40% would be exactly this strategy. So I think that's the best way to do this strategy as well. You're not spreading yourself too thin on the bench. Like, you've got a decent enough bench that you can feasibly bench boost it, but you also do have Haaland for those, I would argue, very good fixtures for the starting couple of weeks, and then you can just change it up, see what happens, change it up in game week 4, and you're pretty safe there, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it also takes the dilemma, because a lot of people I've seen are thinking of switching premium, so they'll start with Salah And then obviously I think he has Burnley game week 4 if I'm correct, and then switched to Haaland I think game week 5 or 6
Right.
when he has Burnley. So it sort of takes that dilemma, because I think on wildcard game week 4 at this present time anyway, else it's a fair few weeks away at the minute. I'll probably have both, and then probably drop Palmer after those
Okay.
initial good fixtures. So yeah, I think going long term it will be a Salah Haaland draft. I think after post
Interesting.
wildcard.
That is very interesting. Actually, I hadn't even thought about that in terms of. I think for me, it's just been Salah and Haaland have just been so expensive, and I want Palmer for the start of the season, which is what I was thinking. I didn't even think about having Haaland and Palmer for the start of the season, then dropping Palmer and having Salah, because you can still have a very nice
Yeah,
team with
yeah.
Salah and Haaland.
Yeah, someone in our Patreon. Not that's a shameless plug, actually. Sorry about that. But yeah, he posted a team with Salah, Haaland, and at 9 mil forward, so Gyökeres. It could obviously be Bruno Fernandes potentially,
Yeah,
and it still looked good.
yeah,
Like the bench was obviously quite weak in terms of there was Mark Guéhi,
yeah,
who's obviously
yeah.
4.5, and then but like I said, the 4 mil defender and a 4.5 mil defender who I think you could probably get away with playing both of those kind of players this year. So yeah, I think it's definitely viable with Defcon. I think it allows it to happen a lot easier because you can get more points from those cheaper assets at 4 mil.
100%. I think it's definitely looking a bit more like 60% sure on my strategy at the moment.
I'm
But
talking to you
yeah, I
into it. We're
think
only at the forwards.
yeah, exactly that. But I think that, as you mentioned there, the guy in your Patreon had Gyökeres as well. I think that's basically the only thing that your team's missing, right? Is those two other
Absolutely.
forwards aren't quite at the standard of an Ollie Watkins or a Gyökeres. So what are you thinking about that? Are you worried?
Yeah, Ben's big on Ollie Watkins
Is he? Okay.
to start the season. So yeah, well, and he's been in banging form in pre-season too. So it's definitely a concern. I think another concern is there's no Arsenal in my team, and obviously game week 2 they go to Leeds. So that's another thing that I've obviously got to try and work out how I'm going to get around that. But yeah, I think overall, obviously, no team's going to be perfect at the end of the day. Like trying to cover every angle is almost impossible. I think I'm just sort of backing United basically to get a result at Arsenal, or at home to Arsenal, and then sort of I could always make a transfer maybe game week 2 and try and bring in someone from Arsenal. I think probably most likely at the minute I might bring in Raya in goal, and then I've got at least a clean sheet sort of covered there at the moment. I think that's sort of the plan that I'd be going down.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fulkrug obviously is the cheaper striker that I can't get Watkins to.
Yeah.
Again, it's summer series. He's just looked sharp. He's been scoring goals.
Good fixture.
Yeah, just genuinely been impressed by him. And if Paqueta's off the pitch, and I think he would challenge Bowen for penalties potentially. He's got a good record, that's for sure. So yeah, there's the off chance of maybe a pen there. And obviously, game week 1 is sort of the game week that I'd have him for, and then he'd sit on the bench like due for the remaining 2 before that wild card. And then yeah, Danny Welbeck 6.5 mil. I think he's a little bit underpriced, to be honest. He's on penalties, direct free kicks, talisman figure in that Brighton team. I expect him to play the first 3. Yeah, really, really happy with him. I think I'd have him no matter if I was bench boosting or not.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually know he was 6.5 mil this year, so I think that's another one that I need to look into. But yeah, no, honestly, looks really, really strong. Obviously, will be most likely, almost definitely, a few changes until the deadline. But yeah, no, thank you very much for coming on, Josh. Have you got any final thoughts that you want to share, or you feel like you've said your piece to all the FPL plug viewers?
No, yeah, I think it's been all good, but thank you for having me on, mate, and I hope you have a good season.
No, brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on, Josh, and good luck.